is with a heavy heart that I stand before you here today to address this tragic incident that has occurred in our community. I want to express my deepest condolences to the family and friends of the victim who lost his life in this unfortunate event. We will do our best to provide you with an accurate and timely information and updates as they become available. On November 5th, 2023, at approximately 3:20 in the evening, the Sheriff's Communication Center received multiple calls regarding a possible assault in an unconscious male who was bleeding at the intersection of Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Westlake Boulevard in the city of Thousand Oaks. The callers advised the incident was related to a rally or demonstration that was occurring at the location. Flyers distributed on social media indicated a demonstration for Freedom for Palestine protest, and the counter-protest was led by We Are Pro-Israel. So we are not changing our protocol. What we do right now is we evaluate every protest on their own merit, determine what we think the threat level is. The sergeant contacted the victim, identified as 69-year-old Paul Kessler, a Thousand Oaks resident, who was lying on the ground. Mr. Kessler was conscious and responsive. The sergeant observed what he saw was bleeding from the head and mouth. Medical personnel from the Ventura County Fire Department arrived on the scene and began providing aid to Mr. Kessler. Mr. Kessler was then transported to a local hospital by paramedics for advanced medical treatment. It's very clear that sometimes when law enforcement does arrive on scene, that we can be a catalyst for additional aggression, and so we try and limit our presence. The suspect was identified, willingly remained at the scene, and was interviewed by deputies. The suspect was cooperative and indicated he was involved in an altercation with Mr. Kessler. The suspect further stated that he was one of the reporting parties who called 911 requesting medical attention for Mr. Kessler. These witnesses providing conflicting statements about what the altercation and who the aggressor was. Some of the witnesses were pro-Palestine, while others were pro-Israel. During the investigation at the scene, deputies determined that the altercation with Mr. Kessler, he fell backward and struck his head on the ground. What exactly transpired prior to Mr. Kessler falling backward isn't crystal clear right now. At 2:53, a patrol deputy and sergeant arrived at the hospital and were told that Mr. Kessler had succumbed to his injuries. At 3 a.m., investigators from the Major Crimes Bureau were notified of the circumstances surrounding Mr. Kessler's death, and they immediately launched an investigation. It is our understanding that Mr. Kessler, a U.S. citizen who practices the Jewish faith, was at the event supporting Israel. The suspect in this case is a 50-year-old who resides in Moore Park and was at the intersection advocating for Palestine. We understand that the war in Israel and Gaza has led to an increase in hateful and threatening rhetoric, and we want to assure the Muslim and Jewish communities that we stand with them both during this difficult time.
The autopsy demonstrated non-lethal injuries to the left side of Mr. Kessler's face. Additional injuries included injury to the back of the head. These injuries are consistent with and typical of injuries sustained from a fall. Internal injuries also were consistent with a fall, which included skull fractures, swelling of the brain, and bruising to the brain.
Are you giving the name of the suspect, by the way?
No.
Okay, why is that?
Has the suspect been booked for any crime at all?
So, the suspect has not been arrested. No arrests have been made related to this incident, and the suspect has not been identified publicly. I can just tell you that the information we're getting is conflicting with one another. There was clearly an interaction between the two, but what that level of interaction is still unclear. That's why we're asking for any video footage that we can have. The one camera angle that I think you have all seen that's from the Shell station is unfortunately blocked by the message board indicating gas prices, and so we cannot see that from that angle. So we're hoping that somebody has video that can help shed some light on what occurred leading up to Mr. Kessler falling, hitting his head. My contention that we still don't know that. My contention is that we're still waiting to see evidence of what occurred in that interaction and whether or not there was a blow to the face that caused the fall, or if Mr. Kessler fell without that being the precipitating event.
Sheriff, you mentioned increased patrols around.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
All right, this has been live streamed to our community. We thank